As we continue to see the events play out surrounding CV-19, we realize that this has been planned since the very beginning. We continue to see, one day after another, how each event that is happening was planned from day one. Each day on the news now, you continue to see how they are saying cases are skyrocketing. They are spreading everywhere. We continue to see that no place in the United States is off limits. They are targeting all of us. They continue to talk how our economy is about to crash. As we continue to see, day after day, country after country, locking back down. We see how serious the events that are playing out around us truly are. Will these lockdowns ever be lifted? Will this be much worse than the first time? Will people just listen and go into their homes like they did before? Or will they stand up and fight for their freedom and their rights? They continue to talk about the stock market crashing. Everything seems to be planned. As I showed you before, we now have countries threatening multiple years in jail for failing to wear a mask. Day after day, we have heard about hospitals that are going to be overloaded. And we continue to hear more and more about getting the flu shot. And as you see here, this is obviously the plan.
There's a lot of talk about a possible twin-demic.
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 A twin-demic.
A twin-demic.
A twin-demic.
Twin-demic. Tonight in Solano County, the health department is reporting the county's first patient with both the flu and COVID-19. KPI X5's Andrea Nakano joins us now from Fairfield with a warning tonight from health officials. Andrea?
Yeah, Liz, the Solano County Public Health Officer, Dr. Bella Matias, telling me tonight that the person infected with both is under the age of 65 and is in fairly good health. This person works in the healthcare sector, but that's not where Dr. Matias believes the transmission occurred.
This is basically a warning to us that we now have flu in our community as well as COVID.
The first case of co-infection has occurred in Solano County, and health officer Dr. Bella Matias believes it happened because the patient didn't follow proper social distancing guidelines.
This person, to the best of our knowledge, did not acquire it in the workplace. They did what so many other people all over the country are doing. They get together with family and friends and let their guard down.
According to Dr. Matias, that's how more than 90% of the COVID infections are occurring in Solano County, and those gatherings have put the county on the brink of falling back into the purple tier for widespread risk.
Obviously, we're not telling people not to get together with family and friends. What we're suggesting is when you do, use common sense and take responsibility for your actions. Don't go to a gathering if you're sick.
Some Fairfield residents say it was only a matter of time until the flu and COVID started circulating in the community.
I knew the flu was coming.
But it's all over anyways. It's all over, period. It's always going to be here no matter what.
As the peak flu season approaches, doctors are urging people to get the vaccine to reduce the risk of becoming seriously ill. Since some of the symptoms of the flu and COVID mirror each other, Dr. Matias says quarantine until you know what you have.
The recommendation is that if you have symptoms, don't go to work, don't go to events, get tested first so that you know that what you have is not going to harm other people.
Solano County should know if it's going to fall into that more restrictive purple tier by next Tuesday.
Local doctors working with neighborhood teenagers to improve flu vaccination rates right now in underserved communities especially, saying that science can only do so much. Our Robbie Owens reports.
Yeah, she's volunteering. Her mom's never had a flu shot before.
On a cold, dreary day in Pleasant Grove,
this is completely flipping the model on its head.
doctors are doing some community gardening.
Like traditionally, doctors sit in their office and wait for their patients to come to them. And here we are leaving our offices and going to the patients. And I think that's the only way to actually take care of people, is to meet them where they are.
In a parking lot, planting seeds of trust with drive-through flu shots.
So the idea was, what if we did this different? What if we tried to engage the community from within and start with the youth?
So UT Southwestern's Dr. Kavita Bhavan is one of the architects of a healthcare ambassador program, allowing teens interested in medical careers one day to begin helping their communities access care now.
They want to see a familiar face, and they want to see people that care about them as well.
So over the weekend, doctors and Parkland staffers vaccinated several hundred against the flu, while also stressing that every person that stays well helps in the fight against COVID.
Both of these viruses have very similar symptoms, and so differentiating them is important, and it's helpful to know at least if you had a flu vaccine.
But I am nervous about the winter that's coming and about the flu combined with COVID. You know, people are already strung really thin, and I just hope that we continue to work really hard and take care of people through what could be a hard winter. What could be a hard winter.
The novel coronavirus attaches to your cells through your mouth and nose and works its way into your lungs, where it can spread to other parts of your body. How do we stop it from doing that? With a vaccine.
So a vaccine is a way for your immune system to identify a foreign invader and prepare for an attack, even before you have an infection.
A vaccine can stop a virus in its tracks and keep you from getting sick.
What scientists all over the world are trying to do is create a vaccine that's going to teach your immune system what this coronavirus looks like, so you're protected against a future infection.
Vaccines are actually made from part of a bacteria or virus that have lost their ability to replicate and infect a person.
And this could be the outer shell of a virus or bacteria. It could be genetic material. It could be part of it. It could even be a weakened version of it.
That weakened version of the coronavirus can be injected into the body and recognized as a foreign invader called an antigen. That antigen would then let your body know to protect it from the virus.
And what this basically is going to do is give your immune system an idea of what the virus or the bacteria looks like.
Before the first person is ever injected with a vaccine, it has to be proven in a lab.
Once they have that part down, and there is an idea that this type of vaccine could work, they then move on to phase 1 clinical trials. Now, phase 1 is basically going to use a very small amount of healthy adults and make sure that the vaccine has no adverse side effects. You got to make sure the vaccine is safe.
Phase 2 would be to test that vaccine on hundreds of people. At this point, researchers are looking at what the right dose is and looking at how to scale up production of the vaccine to treat millions. In phase 3, thousands of people would be involved in testing to make sure that vaccine is safe and works.
Now, this entire process could also, you guessed it, take a couple years. But this is why. Because after phase 3, all this data and all this work the scientists have been doing gets reviewed by both the FDA and the CDC.
The whole process typically takes 10 to 15 years before a vaccine can be licensed for use.
So a lot of people now are saying, whoa, 10 to 15 years, that's a really long time. But everything changes when we're accelerating development because we're using previous research and a lot more collaboration and a lot more funding, which is why we're hopeful we could see a COVID-19 vaccine within 12 to 18 months.
So are you prepared for this playbook? Are you prepared like they were when they sat down and planned out every step of this?
We talk a lot here about the race to find a coronavirus vaccine. Well, once a company reaches that finish line, the vaccine will need to be administered, which is part of the reason why CVS is recruiting people to fill 15,000 jobs.
By now, you may be familiar with the term twindemic.
It's the flu season at the same time that you have the COVID-19.
Jeffrey Lackey is the vice president of talent acquisition for CVS Health. He says their job is to look around the corner to see what's next. In this case, that means filling jobs. 15,000 new and existing positions to help during flu season and administer the much anticipated coronavirus vaccine.
And the need for that to be dispersed quickly is going to be absolutely critical. So we knew, first and foremost, we need to handle the here and now, and let's ramp up to get in front of the flu.
More than 10,000 of the new roles that, by the way, are open in the Bay Area are for full and part-time licensed pharmacy technicians.
I've noticed in any place that has an abundance of farm techs, that you have an amazing experience as a patient.
People in these roles are also vital to administering COVID-19 tests at the more than 4,000 drive-through CVS sites across the country. Moderna, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, and Pfizer are all in phase 3 trials for a potential vaccine. Pfizer expects to apply for an emergency use authorization with the Food and Drug Administration next month. We still don't know when a vaccine would be available to the public, but CVS Health isn't waiting around to find out.
We're talking, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people in short order. Even to an organization as big as CVS, that's still going to be a daunting task, and we need to make sure that we're ready for it.
Walgreens has made an effort this fall to do flu vaccine outreach in communities that have already been hit hard by COVID. Health officials are stressing the importance of a flu shot this year, warning that a bad flu season amid surging coronavirus 19 infections will overwhelm our health system. It seems to be working. Walgreens co-COO Alec Gourlay told me during a session just airing at the Health Virtual Conference that flu shot demand is up sharply.
We think somewhere between 30 and 50% more people will get a flu shot this season. And these numbers are coming true as we speak here today. I think it tells you that people are much more aware of their health, much more prepared to protect themselves, much more concerned about differentiating between the symptoms of the common flu and the symptoms of COVID this year.
Yeah, that is one of the big worries, how to distinguish between the symptoms of the flu and COVID, because a lot of them can be very similar, especially for the elderly. So beyond urging people to get a flu shot, United Healthcare is reaching out to its most vulnerable Medicare members and sending them a kit that contains a thermometer, Tamiflu, which is to be taken within 48 hours to combat flu symptoms, and a COVID test that can be administered via a video visit with one of its doctors. Right now, they are doing that trial with just 200,000 of their Medicare members, but something they're going to watch very closely over the fall. Leslie, I hope you've gotten your flu shot. This is going to be a very tough winter if you have to figure out which one of these you might be suffering.
As the medical community races to try and create an effective vaccine.
But of course, all the coronavirus planning is happening while doctors are working to get people this year's flu vaccines.
But New Mexico is already working to make sure we don't get caught between two viruses. Brittany Hope is live to tell us about a new test that could help. Brittany.
Hi, Shelby. So yeah, I talked to an emergency medicine doctor here at UNM Hospital, and he pretty much told me his team is working with the state right now to get a test that would test for both COVID and the flu at the same time.
Getting flu and COVID would be devastating. You don't want that. That's really, really bad. The mortality associated with that has been very high.
A trend health experts don't want to see as we head into the flu season. Many right now, including this UNM doctor, urging you to go get your flu shot.
The other thing that we think happens is if you get the flu vaccine, it sort of wakes your immune system up to fighting viruses. And so it may actually offer a little bit of cross protection to SARS-CoV-2 as well.
This could be a recipe for disaster if you don't get vaccinated. Our Christina Laurie spoke with a local pharmacist about being prepared for this flu season.
Flu shots are even more important to get this year. Joining us to talk about that is Birgitta Monson. She is a pharmacist. She knows firsthand just how important these shots are. Good morning, Birgitta. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So health experts, many of them, are warning of what could be called a twindemic, the rise of the flu on top of COVID. Can you talk a little bit about what that means and why that could be so dangerous?
Absolutely. So the fear in the twindemic, as the CDC and a lot of our medical experts are saying, is a big concern, especially with the the flu having very similar symptoms to COVID. And the fear is And the fear is if someone would come down with the flu, they would present to their healthcare provider, and those symptoms are very similar to COVID-19 symptoms, and it would cause our healthcare system to have to act extra precautiously to take care of that patient. And also the fear too is just with having two different viruses running, it will overload our healthcare systems.
And our healthcare system is already getting more and more overloaded. We see the hospitalization rate go up here in Wisconsin, the number of COVID cases too. So who exactly should get vaccinated for the flu? What age groups are most susceptible?
Absolutely. So CDC recommends anyone 6 months and older to receive that flu vaccine. And we recommend if you're on the fence about receiving it to stop into one of our Pick and Save pharmacies to talk with a pharmacist to determine which flu vaccine is right for you and if you're a great candidate. But most people are a great candidate to receive that flu vaccine.
And for all the parents watching out there, it can be hard to get your kids on board with getting stuck in their arm. Any tips for parents that might be trying to convince their kids that they do need to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is a very challenging thing, trying to convince your young child to go in and get that vaccine, but just, reminding them that, hey, if you're doing this, you're protecting your friends, your family, and kind of tie it back to how life's been for the last several months where, with that flu vaccine, it does help, it does work. So just remind them that, and a small little reward afterwards always is a nice treat for getting that flu vaccine. But it's quick, it's painless, you're in and out in under a minute usually when you get that.
And I know in past years, sometimes there are headlines that different places run out of the flu vaccine. Is that any concern this year, especially with the pandemic going on?
It is not a concern this year. So CDC recommends just to get a flu vaccine. There are many different types of flu vaccine, but they all offer great protection from the flu. So we recommend just stopping into your nearest Pick and Save pharmacy to talk to their Pick and Save pharmacist to talk about which flu vaccine is available and which one is a great one for you. But at this point, we're not concerned about any shortages.
And any gauge or prediction on how long this year's flu season could last, how bad it might be? I know numbers down in the southern hemisphere can often help us predict how things might look for us up here.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't speak to that right now. It's too early on in the flu season, but all we recommend is go in and get that flu vaccine, especially just to protect yourself, your family, your friends, your community from that flu vaccine or from the flu virus.
No downside except for little momentary pain. We can all take that, especially right now.
Yeah.
No downside except for little momentary pain. We can all take that, especially right now.
Yeah.
And doctors say getting a flu shot is something we can all do right now to help out.
Of course, the number one thing is to get the vaccine.
It's not too late to get prepared, but you must do it today. Make a plan, stick to it, and be ready at all times. Everybody stay safe, stay strong. We'll talk to you soon. God bless.